Winter without mercy. Modern winters can be brutal, but imagine surviving one without central heating, electric blankets, or even socks that matched. For medieval peasants, winter wasn't just uncomfortable, it was a gauntlet thrown by Mother Nature, and failure meant freezing to death in your own home. Reality check. Castles got cozy, huts got frostbite. Fairy tales love to show castles glowing with roaring fireplaces and fur rugs. But for the average peasant, winter meant waking up inside a hut so cold your breath formed icicles and your bed sheets, if you had any, could crack like toast. No windows, no insulation, and definitely no thermostat. Just cold, damp misery. And we complain when it dips below 65 degrees Fahrenheit and our latte cools too fast. Historical records show that winters in parts of medieval Europe, especially northern France and England, regularly dropped to 0 degrees Fahrenheit or even lower. That's cold enough to freeze wet clothing to your skin and boots to the dirt floor. There's a story of a traveler who stopped to nap in a barn and woke up frozen to the hay like some cursed fairy tale character. That's not frostbite. That's survival roulette. Hay beds, nature's mattress. Forget memory foam. Peasants slept on hay. They'd stack it 2 feet deep in wooden frames or directly on the floor. Hay acted like nature's insulation, trapping warm air while keeping bodies off the frozen earth. Sometimes they'd line it with moss, old rags, or even sheep hides. But these beds weren't exactly pest-free. Mice would tunnel in like it was an Airbnb. Bugs thrived in the warmth. One peasant reportedly woke up with a chicken roosting on his chest and found an egg beside him. Breakfast in bed? Sure. Sanitary? Not even close. Wool, the MVP of winter wear. To fight off the cold, peasants relied on wool. Itchy, heavy, but life-saving. Wool held warmth even when damp, and thanks to lanolin, it also repelled water. Think of it as medieval Gore-Tex. If Gore-Tex smelled like a barn, a family might have 20-plus pounds of wool garments. Processing it was an ordeal. Shearing, washing, carding, spinning, weaving. It could take days to make one tunic. And in winter, if you washed it and left it out, it froze into shape. One peasant's coat became such a frozen legend that locals called it stiff as John. He wore it like armor, or rather, it wore him. The layering game, extreme edition. Peasants weren't fashion icons, but they mastered layering centuries before North Face existed. A winter outfit could include up to 7 layers: linen underclothes, wool tunics, jerkins, cloaks, and hoods, all cinched with rope belts. One guy got so tangled in his layers, he fell over and had to be rolled upright by his wife like a human burrito. Bathroom adventures, a cold reality. Indoor plumbing? Nope. Chamber pots, maybe. But most people had to brave the outdoors to relieve themselves. Imagine peeling off layers in 10 degrees Fahrenheit wind just to pee in a wooden shed over a pit. Some folks skipped drinking water just to avoid the whole ordeal. Dehydration? A small price to pay for not mooning the frost gods. Kids in winter, walking blankets. Children weren't spared. They were wrapped up like stuffed cabbages. So many layers they waddled more than walked. A medieval monk once joked that you could spot a child in winter by the way they rolled downhill instead of walking it. Knees, optional. Fireplaces, if you're lucky. Some homes had a fire pit, a circle of stones in the middle of the room, no chimney, just a hole in the roof. The result? Heat escaped, smoke stayed. Maybe 15% of warmth actually stuck around. The rest heated the sky and confused passing birds. Fuel, whatever burned. Dry firewood was a luxury. Peasants burned anything remotely flammable. Old furniture, broken tools, dead branches, even dried animal dung. In one English village, people took turns dismantling an abandoned barn, one plank at a time, to feed their fires. One guy reportedly burned his family's bed frame. The next night, they slept on hay. The circle of peasant life. Starting the fire, Ember Olympics. Matches didn't exist, so keeping a fire alive was essential. Peasants would bury embers in ash overnight and hope they survived till morning. If not, someone had to jog to the neighbor's house and beg for a coal, often carrying it in a hollowed-out turnip to keep it warm. One man sprinted so fast to save his ember that neighbors swore he was outrunning the devil himself. He wasn't, just frostbite, the smoke show. With no chimney, smoke filled the home. Eyes stung, lungs burned, everything. Hair, clothes, stew, smelled like BBQ. But it wasn't all bad. The smoke actually repelled fleas, lice, and mosquitoes. It was like a built-in pest control system. Plus, it preserved meat, and probably your eyebrows. Closing thought, survival was the only goal. To us, winter is annoying. For them, it was everything. If your fire went out, if your clothes soaked through, if your hay bed molded or your neighbor wasn't home to share coals, you didn't just suffer, you risked death. Yet they endured. Wrapped in wool, warmed by smoke, sharing scraps of fire and food. They didn't just survive winter, they wrestled it into submission year after year. So next time your heater's acting up, remember, at least your boots aren't frozen to the floor. And adapt they did. Ingenious survival hacks. Innovation was born from necessity. Cold door drafts? Stuffed with rolled straw or abandoned rags. Cupboard wasn't just empty, it was non-existent. But peasants found hundreds of uses for robust herbs. Thyme not only flavored stews, but was burned in braziers to access every last bit of warmth it produced. Games of icicles and snow. Winter also brought a touch of play. Icicles became makeshift swords in frosty battles. Snowdrifts were conquered peaks. For children, wrapped too snugly, playtime was their sweet escape from the reality of cold homes. Hope in the cold. As harsh as the winter could be, dawn came every day with a promise, a reminder that beyond the barren frost lay spring's warmth. It was that hope, nestled secretly in their hearts, that urged them to go on.